The text came in at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Flight delayed. Home tomorrow instead. Miss you xoxo. I stared at my phone screen, whiskey glass halfway to my lips, and laughed. Actually laughed out loud in our empty loft. Because Rina Turner, my wife of 6 years, had been sending me the same bullshit for 3 months now. Different excuses. Same pattern. Girls' trips that stretched longer, work conferences that multiplied like rabbits, and mysterious delays that always seemed to happen when I was finally asleep. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The funny thing about being a forensic auditor is that you develop a nose for inconsistencies, numbers that don't add up, patterns that scream fraud. And my wife's behavior had been screaming so loud lately, I was surprised the neighbors hadn't complained. I walked to our bedroom window, looking down at the parking garage. Her BMW wasn't there, hadn't been there in 4 days, but according to her Instagram, which she'd forgotten I could see, she'd been posting photos from Miami Beach with timestamps that put her there yesterday afternoon. Funny thing about metadata, it doesn't lie. Unlike wives, the apartment felt different without her. Cleaner somehow. Less perfume hanging in the air, fewer shoes scattered around like landmines. I'd actually been sleeping better, which probably said more about our marriage than I wanted to admit. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo. Rina and her best friend Vivian at some upscale restaurant, both grinning like they'd won the lottery. The caption read, "Last night in paradise, back to reality tomorrow." I zoomed in on the image, my auditor brain automatically cataloging details. Rina's hair was different. Shorter, more expensive looking. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, something that probably cost more than most people's rent. And there, catching the restaurant's ambient lighting like a small star, was a diamond ring on her left ring finger. Not her wedding ring, that was sitting in our bathroom, where she'd forgotten it before this latest trip. This was something else entirely, something that made my whiskey taste like ash, and my chest feel like someone had reached in and squeezed. I screenshotted the image and sent it to my work buddy Sam with a simple message. Zoom in on her left hand. His response came back in under 30 seconds. Holy shit, dude, that's not your ring. No, it definitely wasn't. I poured myself another whiskey and sat down at my computer. Time to do what I did best, follow the money trail. Rina's credit card statements were still linked to my email, a detail she'd apparently forgotten when she started living her double life. The charges painted a picture that would have been hilarious if it weren't happening to me. Expensive hotels, dinners for 2 at restaurants she'd never mentioned, lingerie stores, and, this was the kicker, a jewelry store in downtown Boston. 2 weeks ago. Charge amount, $847. Not enough for the rock she was sporting in that photo, which meant someone else had bought it. I was 3 whiskeys deep and halfway through printing out credit card statements when I heard her key in the lock. The front door opened with its familiar squeak, followed by the sound of luggage wheels on hardwood. Miles, you awake, honey? Honey. Right. In here, I called from the office, not moving from my chair. She appeared in the doorway, and I had to admit she looked good. Tanned, relaxed, glowing with that particular radiance that comes from getting attention from someone who isn't your husband. She'd lost weight, too. Funny how cheating wives always seem to discover fitness right around the time they discovered other men. Miss me? She asked, leaning against the doorframe with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Like a hole in the head, I said, raising my glass. How was Miami? Amazing. The weather was perfect, and Viv and I just relaxed by the pool most days. Very low-key. I nodded, taking another sip. Must have been, though that restaurant looked pretty fancy in your Instagram post. Something flickered across her face, just for a second. Oh, that. We splurged on our last night. You know how Viv gets. I do indeed. I gestured at her hand. Nice ring. New? She looked down at her left hand like she'd forgotten it was there, which was interesting considering that rock probably cost more than our monthly mortgage. This old thing? Viv bought it for me as a friendship ring. You know, one of those silly girls' trip souvenirs. Friendship ring, I repeated slowly. From the jewelry store downtown, the one that charged your credit card $847 2 weeks ago. The color drained from her face like someone had pulled a plug. Miles, I can explain. I'm sure you can. You've gotten very good at explaining things lately. I stood up, finishing my whiskey. But here's the thing, Rina. I'm a forensic auditor. I find discrepancies for a living. And you, my dear wife, are one giant discrepancy. She opened her mouth to say something, but I held up a hand. Save it. We both know what this is. The only question now is how we handle it. I walked past her toward the bedroom, pausing at the doorway. Oh, and Rina, you might want to call Viv and get your stories straight, because according to her Facebook, she's been in Boston all week helping her sister move. I left her standing there, mouth open, ring catching the light like a tiny beacon of betrayal. In the bedroom, I pulled out my phone and texted Sam, "Emergency meeting tomorrow. Bring coffee and your truck." His response was immediate. Shit's about to get real, isn't it? I looked back toward the office where I could hear Rina frantically whispering into her phone. "Oh yeah," I typed back. "Real as it gets." I woke up the next morning to the sound of the shower running and Rina singing. Actually singing. Some pop song about new beginnings and fresh starts. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. My phone showed 3 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize and 2 text messages from Rina's mother. The first one read, "Looking forward to dinner Sunday. Rina says she has exciting news to share." The second, "Should we make reservations somewhere special? She sounded so happy on the phone last night." I stared at the messages, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. Exciting news, right. The shower shut off, and I quickly deleted the texts. Let her think I hadn't seen them yet. In my business, information was power, and I wasn't about to give up any advantage. "Morning, sleepyhead," Rina said, emerging from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, her hair still damp. She looked nervous but determined, like someone about to jump off a high dive. "Morning," I said, not looking up from my phone. "Sleep well?" "Like a baby." She sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that I could smell her expensive shampoo. "Miles, about last night. I think we should talk." "Do we?" I kept scrolling through emails, playing it casual. "About what?" "About us. About where we're going. About what we both want." I finally looked at her. She was fidgeting with that ring, twisting it around her finger like a worry stone. Up close, I could see it was even more expensive than I'd thought. Definitely not something you bought yourself on a whim. "What do you want, Rina?" She took a deep breath. "I want to be happy. And I think maybe we both deserve to be happy." Interesting philosophy. Very enlightened. I stood up, stretching. "I'm going to grab coffee with Sam. We can continue this conversation later." "Miles, wait." She grabbed my arm as I headed for the closet. "I think we should talk now. Before what?" She looked down at the ring, then back at me. "Before things get complicated." I gently removed her hand from my arm. "Honey, things got complicated the moment you decided to sleep with someone else. Everything after that is just paperwork." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I never said I was. You didn't have to. I'm not stupid, Rina. Dishonest wives always think their husbands are stupid. It's like a prerequisite for the job." I pulled on jeans and a t-shirt, watching her in the mirror. She was crying now, but they were angry tears, not sad ones. The kind of tears that came when someone got caught, not when someone felt guilty. "I never meant for it to happen," she said. "But it did happen. Multiple times, apparently. In expensive hotels, with expensive dinners, and expensive jewelry. I turned around. What's his name? She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Does it matter? Not really. I'm just curious about my replacement. Is he taller than me? Richer? Better in bed? I like to know where I stand in the rankings. Don't be cruel, Miles. Cruel? I laughed, but there wasn't any humor in it. Rina, you've been living a double life for months. You've been lying to my face, spending our money on another man, and planning some kind of dramatic exit strategy that apparently involves Sunday dinner with your parents. And I'm being cruel? She stood up, clutching the towel tighter. You don't understand. You're never here. You work all the time. We never talk anymore. So you decided to talk to someone else, with your vagina. God, you're such an asshole. Yeah, well, you're a cheating whore. I guess we're even. The words hung in the air between us like smoke from a fire. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her making a decision. The mask was coming off. His name is Elliot, she said finally. Elliot Drake. He's a real estate developer. And yes, he's better than you. In every way that matters. Elliot Drake, I repeated, filing the name away. Sounds like a soap opera character. He loves me. And I love him. How romantic. When's the wedding? She lifted her chin defiantly. Soon. Looking forward to it. Will I be invited? Miles, stop. This doesn't have to be ugly. Doesn't it? Because from where I'm standing, it's already pretty ugly. I grabbed my wallet and keys. But don't worry. I'll make sure it gets a lot uglier before it gets better. I was halfway to the door when she called after me. What's that supposed to mean? I turned back, giving her my best smile. It means you picked the wrong husband to mess with, sweetheart. I make a living exposing fraud, and you, my dear wife, are about to become my favorite case study. The coffee shop was nearly empty when I arrived. Sam was already there, sitting in our usual corner booth with 2 large coffees and a box of donuts. He looked up as I approached, taking in my expression. That bad? Worse. I slid into the booth and grabbed a coffee. She's planning to leave me for someone named Elliot Drake. Apparently there's going to be some kind of announcement at Sunday dinner with her parents. Shit. Sam shook his head. How long has this been going on? Months, from what I can tell. Maybe longer. I pulled out my phone and showed him the credit card statements I'd printed. Look at this pattern. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry stores, all the greatest hits of infidelity. Sam whistled low. She wasn't even trying to hide it. Why would she? In her mind, I'm just some boring accountant who works too much and doesn't pay attention. She probably figured I'd never notice. So what's the plan? I took a long sip of coffee, feeling the caffeine hit my system. You know what the best part about being a forensic auditor is? What? You learn that the cover-up is always worse than the crime. People do stupid things when they think they're about to get caught. They make mistakes. They leave trails. And you're going to follow those trails. Oh, I'm going to do more than that. I leaned forward. I'm going to make sure Elliot Drake knows exactly what kind of woman he's planning to marry. And I'm going to make sure Rina understands that actions have consequences. Legal consequences? The best kind. The kind that don't require lawyers or judges. The kind that come from good old-fashioned public humiliation. Sam grinned. I like the sound of that. What do you need? Information. Elliot Drake is a real estate developer in Boston. I want to know everything about him. Where he works, where he lives, what kind of deals he's working on. Everything. Consider it done. What else? Your truck. And maybe a few of your construction buddies. I have a feeling I'm going to need some heavy lifting done. When? I checked my watch. It was almost noon. Rina would be at work by now, probably calling Elliot to tell him about our conversation. They'd be making plans, thinking they were in control of the situation. Soon, I said. Very soon. Elliot Drake turned out to be exactly what I'd expected. A flashy, overconfident real estate developer with more money than sense and a weakness for other men's wives. Sam's research had been thorough. Drake owned a development company called Elite Properties, drove a leased Porsche, and lived in a downtown penthouse that he'd bought during the market crash for pennies on the dollar. He was also, according to his company's website, recently divorced. His ex-wife had taken him for half his assets in a very public and very nasty split that had made the local business papers. Apparently, she'd caught him cheating with a client and decided to make him pay for it. Literally. "Guy's got a type," Sam said, sliding a folder across my desk. "Married women, preferably with something to lose." I flipped through the printouts. Photos from charity events, business profiles, social media screenshots. In every picture, Elliot looked like he was auditioning for the role of successful businessman in a low-budget movie. Perfectly styled hair, expensive suits, and a smile that screamed, "Trust me with your life savings." What about his current projects? That's where it gets interesting. Sam pulled out another set of papers. He's got 3 major developments in the works, but 2 of them are behind schedule and over budget. Word is, he's stretched pretty thin financially. How thin? Thin enough that he needs investors. Big ones. The kind that don't like surprises or bad publicity. I smiled. Even better. What about Rina's work situation? She's a hospitality manager at the Grandview Hotel downtown. Been there for 3 years, good reviews, no major issues. But here's the thing. Guess who's been booking suites at the Grandview for the past 4 months? Let me guess. Elliot Drake. Bingo. Same suite twice a week, always paid for with his company credit card. Apparently, he told them he was hosting out-of-town investors. In a way, he was. He was investing in my wife. Sam laughed. You're taking this pretty well. All things considered. Am I? Because inside I feel like I want to burn everything down. But you're not going to. No. I'm going to do something much worse. I'm going to let them think they're winning, right up until the moment they realize they've lost everything. I spent the rest of the afternoon putting together a timeline. Credit card charges, hotel bookings, Rina's work schedule, Elliot's business meetings. The pattern was clear. They'd been meeting twice a week for months, always at the Grandview, always during Rina's work hours. She'd been using her employee access to book the suite under fake names, and Elliot had been paying for everything. It was sloppy, arrogant, and it was going to be their downfall. My phone rang around 5 o'clock. Rina's name appeared on the screen. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Hi. I was wondering if you wanted to grab dinner tonight. Maybe we could talk about things." "What kind of things?" "Our future. What we both want. How we can make this work for everyone." I almost laughed. "Sure. How about that new place downtown? The one near the Grandview Hotel?" There was a pause. "Why there?" "No reason. I've heard good things about it. Actually, maybe somewhere else would be better. How about that Italian place we used to like?" "Whatever you want, sweetheart. You're calling the shots here." Another pause. "Miles, are you okay? You sound different." "Different how?" "I don't know. Calmer, I guess. I thought you'd be more upset." "Oh, I am upset. I'm just processing it differently than you expected." "What does that mean?" "It means I'll see you at 7. Wear something nice. I have a feeling it's going to be a memorable evening." I hung up before she could respond. The restaurant was crowded when I arrived. Rina was already there, sitting at a corner table, wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. She looked nervous, fidgeting with her menu and checking her phone every few seconds. "Sorry I'm late," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. "You're not late. I was early." She put down her phone and tried to smile. "You look nice." "Thanks. So do you. New dress?" She glanced down like she'd forgotten what she was wearing. "This old thing? I've had it forever." "Funny. I don't remember it." "I don't wear it very often. The waiter came over and we ordered drinks. Wine for her, whiskey for me. When he left, we sat in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken words hanging between us. "So," she said finally, "I've been thinking about what you said this morning." "Which part?" "About things being complicated, about paperwork." I took a sip of my whiskey. "What about it?" "Maybe it doesn't have to be. Complicated, I mean. Maybe we can handle this like adults." "How do adults handle adultery, Rina? Is there a manual I should be reading?" She flinched. "Don't call it that." "What should I call it? A mistake? A misunderstanding? A temporary lapse in judgment?" "It's more than that. It's—" She struggled for the words. "It's real, Miles. What Elliot and I have, it's real." "I'm sure it feels real. Expensive hotel suites have a way of making things feel very real." Her face went pale. "How did you know about the hotel? Come on, Rina, you work there. You think I wouldn't figure that out?" She looked around the restaurant like she was planning an escape route. "Miles, please, let me explain." "I'm listening." She took a deep breath. "It started as friendship. Elliot was a client at the hotel, and we just connected. We talked about everything. Our dreams, our fears, what we wanted out of life. And what you wanted was him. What I wanted was to feel alive again, to feel like someone saw me, really saw me. And I didn't see you? You saw a wife, a housekeeper, someone to split the bills with. But you didn't see me." I nodded slowly. "You're probably right. I saw what I wanted to see. A partner, someone I could trust, someone who wouldn't lie to my face for months while sleeping with another man. It's not like that. What's it like then?" She twisted the ring on her finger. "It's love, Miles. Real love. The kind you read about in books. The kind that comes with a diamond ring and a penthouse suite. The ring isn't about money. It's about commitment. Elliot wants to marry me." "How romantic. When's the big day?" "We haven't set a date yet. We wanted to handle things properly, respectfully." "By announcing it to your parents on Sunday?" Her mouth fell open. "How did you—" "Your mother texted me. She's very excited about your exciting news." "Should I tell her what it is? Or do you want to surprise her?" Rina's hands were shaking now. "Miles, you have to understand." "I understand perfectly. You've been planning this for months. The trips, the lies, the secret meetings. You've been building a whole new life while pretending to live your old one." "Yes," she said, lifting her chin. "Yes, I have, because I deserve to be happy. And Elliot makes you happy." "He does." "Good. I'm glad, because you're going to need all the happiness you can get." She frowned. "What does that mean?" I finished my whiskey and stood up. "It means enjoy your last few days of thinking you're in control. Because starting Monday, your whole world is going to change." "Miles, wait." But I was already walking away, leaving her sitting there with her expensive dress and her guilty conscience and her ring that was about to become the most expensive mistake of her life. Outside, I called Sam. "How did it go?" "Better than expected. She's completely convinced she's smarter than me." "And Elliot?" "Probably getting a very frantic phone call right about now." "So what's next?" I looked back through the restaurant window. Rina was on her phone, gesticulating wildly, her face flushed with panic. "Next, we let them make their announcement, let them think they've won, and then we show them what losing really looks like." Sunday dinner at the Turner family estate was always a production. Rina's parents, Charles and Margaret, lived in a sprawling colonial in Brookline that had been in Margaret's family for 3 generations. It was the kind of house that came with its own historical society plaque and a property tax bill that could fund a small country. I arrived exactly on time, carrying a bottle of wine that cost more than most people's weekly groceries. If this was going to be my last family dinner as a Turner son-in-law, I was going out in style. Margaret answered the door, her face lighting up with genuine warmth. "Miles! So good to see you, dear. Come in. Come in. The house smelled like roast beef and old money. Charles was in the living room, reading the Wall Street Journal and nursing what looked like his second scotch of the evening. He looked up when I entered, offering his usual firm handshake. Miles, good to see you. How's business? Booming. Lots of fraud to investigate these days. People getting sloppy, thinking they won't get caught. Terrible shame, Charles said, though I could tell he wasn't really listening. Where's Rina? Running late. You know how she is with her appearance. Margaret bustled in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. She sounded so excited on the phone, said she had wonderful news to share. Did she? I wonder what it could be. Charles folded his newspaper. Probably got a promotion at work. That hotel's been doing well lately. Something like that, I agreed. Rina arrived 20 minutes later, looking like she'd stepped off the cover of a magazine. She was wearing a blue dress that probably cost more than my car payment, and her hair was styled in loose waves that caught the light every time she moved. The ring was prominently displayed on her left hand, catching the dining room chandelier like a small spotlight. Sorry I'm late, she said, kissing her parents on the cheek. She gave me a quick, nervous glance. Traffic was terrible. We sat down to dinner, and for the first 30 minutes, everything was normal. Margaret fussed over the roast, Charles complained about the stock market, and Rina made small talk about work. I played my part, asking questions and making appropriate comments, all while watching my wife fidget with her ring and check her phone. Finally, as Margaret was clearing the main course, Rina took a deep breath. Actually, Mom, Dad, I do have some news to share. Margaret practically vibrated with excitement. I knew it. Is it a promotion? Not exactly. Rina glanced at me, then back at her parents. It's more personal than that. Charles leaned forward. Personal how? Well, Rina held up her left hand, letting the diamond catch the light. I'm engaged. The silence that followed was deafening. Margaret's mouth fell open. Charles looked confused, and I took a sip of wine like she'd just announced the weather. Engaged? Margaret said finally. But you're already married. Not for much longer, Rina said, her voice gaining confidence. Miles and I have decided to divorce. It's very amicable. We both want different things. Charles looked at me. Miles? Is this true? Oh, it's true, I said. Though I wouldn't call it amicable, I'd call it expensive. Rina shot me a warning look. We're handling it maturely, like adults. Who's the lucky man? Margaret asked, still looking shell-shocked. His name is Elliot Drake. He's a successful real estate developer, very accomplished, very kind. How long have you known him? Charles asked. Long enough to know he's the one, Rina said. We met through work, and it just happened. Sometimes love finds you when you least expect it. I laughed, actually laughed out loud. All three of them stared at me. Sorry, I said. It's just funny, hearing it described that way. What way? Rina asked, her voice tight. Like it was some kind of romantic accident. Like you just happened to fall into bed with him twice a week for the past 4 months. Margaret gasped. Charles set down his wine glass hard enough to make it ring. Miles, Rina said through gritted teeth. We agreed to handle this respectfully. Did we? When did we agree to that? You're being cruel. Am I? Because I think I'm being honest. For the first time in months, actually. Charles cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. No need, I said, standing up. I think everything's been said that needs to be said. Rina's found her true love. I'm yesterday's news, and everyone's going to live happily ever after. I walked around the table and kissed Margaret on the cheek. Dinner was wonderful as always. Thank you for having me. Miles, wait, she said, grabbing my arm. Surely you two can work this out. Some things can't be worked out, Margaret. Some things can only be endured. I headed for the door, pausing when I reached Rina's chair. By the way, I said quietly, so only she could hear, you might want to check your email when you get home. I sent you something I think you'll find interesting. Her face went white. What kind of something? A wedding present from Elliot's ex-wife. Turns out she's very chatty when you ask the right questions. I left her sitting there, diamond ring sparkling, face pale as milk, while her parents stared in confused silence. Outside, I called Sam. Phase 1 complete, I said. How'd it go? Like clockwork. She made her announcement, played the victim, and now she's probably calling Elliot in a panic. And the email? Sent an hour ago. Financial records, divorce proceedings, and a very detailed account of Elliot's pattern of targeting married women. Turns out our boy has done this before. 3 times, actually. Shit. She's not going to take that well. No, she's not. Which is why Phase 2 starts tomorrow. What's Phase 2? I looked back at the house, where I could see Rina through the dining room window, gesticulating wildly while her parents sat in stunned silence. Phase 2 is where Elliot finds out exactly what kind of woman he's planning to marry, and where Rina learns that some secrets are harder to keep than others. I like the sound of that. You're going to love the execution. Monday morning came with a text from Rina at 6:23 a.m. We need to talk, now. I was already at the office, having arrived early to put the finishing touches on what I'd started calling Operation Full Disclosure. My desk was covered with printouts, photos, and a timeline that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. I texted back, at work, busy day ahead. Her response was immediate. This can't wait. Everything can wait, especially conversations with lying wives. My phone rang 30 seconds later. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again and again. On the 4th call, I answered. Miles Turner, Forensic Auditing. How can I help you? Don't be an asshole. We need to talk about that email. What about it? Did you find it informative? You know what you did. I shared publicly available information about your fiancé's business practices and romantic history. I thought you'd want to know what you were getting into. Those divorce records were sealed. Were they? Funny thing about sealed records. They have a way of becoming unsealed when people start asking the right questions. I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end of the line. Miles, you have to stop this. Stop what? Telling the truth? Sharing facts? Being helpful? You're trying to sabotage my relationship. Your relationship sabotaged itself the moment you decided to sleep with another man. I'm just documenting the aftermath. Elliot is furious. He thinks I lied to him about you. Did you? Silence. Did you lie to him, Rina? Did you tell him I was some boring accountant who ignored you? Did you paint yourself as the victim of a loveless marriage? Did you forget to mention that you were still sleeping with me right up until last week? It's not like that. What's it like then? It's complicated. No, it's simple. You're a cheater and a liar, and now your boyfriend knows it. The only complicated part is figuring out how much damage control you can do before he dumps you. He's not going to dump me. Are you sure about that? Because according to his ex-wife, Elliot has a very specific pattern. He targets married women, makes them feel special, gets them to leave their husbands, and then moves on to the next target. You're number 4, by the way. You're lying. Am I? Why don't you ask him about Jennifer Morrison, or Sarah Chen, or Lisa Rodriguez? All married when he met them, all divorced within 6 months, all replaced by newer models within a year. The line went quiet except for the sound of her breathing. Still there, sweetheart? You bastard. Probably. But I'm an honest bastard, which is more than I can say for some people. She hung up. I leaned back in my chair, feeling something that might have been satisfaction if it weren't mixed with so much anger. My computer chimed with an email notification. Sam, with the subject line, "Package delivered." I opened it. A single line of text. Elliot Drake just received a very interesting care package at his office. Photos attached. The photos showed Elliot's receptionist signing for a large manila envelope. Inside that envelope, according to Sam's text, were copies of every credit card statement, hotel receipt, and restaurant bill from Rina's 4-month affair, along with a note that read, "Thought you should know what your fiancé's been charging to her husband's credit cards. Congratulations on the engagement. A concerned friend." My phone buzzed with another text from Rina. "What did you send Elliot?" I ignored it. 20 minutes later. "Miles, answer me. What did you do?" Still ignored. An hour later, my office phone rang. The caller ID showed Elliot Drake's company. "Miles Turner. This is Elliot Drake. I think we need to have a conversation." His voice was different than I'd expected. Smoother, more controlled. The voice of a man who was used to being in charge of every situation. "Do we? About what?" "About your wife, and about some very disturbing information I received this morning." "Disturbing how?" "Don't play games with me, Turner. You know exactly what I'm talking about." "Actually, I don't. Could you be more specific?" There was a pause. I could hear him breathing, trying to control his temper. "You sent me financial records, credit card statements, hotel receipts." "Did I? That doesn't sound like something I'd do." "Cut the shit. We both know it was you." "Do we? Because I'm pretty sure tampering with mail is a federal offense. Are you accusing me of a federal crime, Mr. Drake?" Another pause, longer this time. "What do you want?" "Want? Nothing. I have everything I need." "Then why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Sharing information, telling the truth, helping a fellow businessman understand what he's getting into?" "You're trying to destroy my relationship with Rina." "Your relationship with Rina destroyed itself. I'm just making sure everyone has access to the same facts. She loves me. I'm sure she does, just like she loved her husband. Right up until she met you. That's different. Is it? How?" Silence. "Here's the thing, Elliot. Rina has a pattern too. She finds men who can give her things, security, money, status, excitement, and when one man stops giving her what she wants, she finds another one. You're just the latest in a long line." "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? How much money have you spent on her in the past 4 months? Hotels, dinners, jewelry, clothes? I'm guessing it's more than most people make in a year." "That's none of your business. It became my business when she started charging it to my credit cards." "Your credit cards?" I smiled. "Didn't she tell you? The hotel bills, the restaurant charges, even that friendship ring she's wearing, all paid for with cards that are in my name. Technically, I bought you your girlfriend." The silence stretched out so long I thought he might have hung up. "Elliot, you still there?" "You're lying." "Am I? Check the statements I sent you. Look at the card numbers. Cross-reference them with the charges. Do your homework." "Why would she do that?" "Because she's a user, Elliot. She uses people. She used me for 6 years, and now she's using you. The only difference is you're paying for the privilege. She's going to divorce you. We're getting married." "Are you?" "Because according to my lawyer, she can't file for divorce until she's been separated for a year. That's Massachusetts law, which means you're going to be supporting another man's wife for the next 12 months. That can't be right. Look it up. I'll wait." I could hear him typing, probably Googling Massachusetts divorce laws. The silence stretched out for almost 2 minutes. "Wow," he said finally. "Yeah, wow indeed. She told me you were separated, that you'd agreed to an amicable divorce. She told you a lot of things, apparently. The question is, how many of them were true?" Another long pause. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing, but I'll give you some free advice. Cut your losses. Find yourself a nice single woman who doesn't come with a husband and a history of infidelity. Trust me, there are plenty of them out there. And if I don't, then enjoy the ride. But don't say I didn't warn you when she starts charging her next affair to your credit cards." I hung up, feeling better than I had in months. My phone immediately started buzzing with texts from Rina. I turned it face down and got back to work. Outside my office window, Boston was going about its business, oblivious to the small drama playing out in conference rooms and hotel suites across the city. But inside my office, I was putting the finishing touches on the most satisfying audit of my career, and I was just getting started. The call came at 2:17 p.m. on Wednesday. Unknown number, but I had a feeling I knew who it was. "Miles, it's Margaret, Rina's mother." Her voice was strained, like she'd been crying. Or drinking. Possibly both. "Hello, Margaret. How are you holding up?" "Not well, I'm afraid." "Miles, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Of course." "Is it true? What Rina told us on Sunday? About the divorce being mutual?" I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the city skyline. "What do you think, Margaret?" "I think my daughter has been lying to everyone, including herself." "That's a very astute observation." "Charles and we've been married for 38 years. We've seen our share of marital problems. But this feels different." "Different how?" "Desperate. Like she's running from something instead of running to something." I didn't say anything, letting her work through it. "She came by the house yesterday, crying, angry, saying you were trying to destroy her life. But when I asked her to explain, she couldn't give me a straight answer." "What did she tell you?" "That you were jealous. That you couldn't accept that she'd found someone better. That you were sabotaging her relationship out of spite." "And what did you tell her?" "I told her that the Miles Turner I know isn't spiteful. Stubborn, yes. Sarcastic, definitely. But not cruel. Not without cause." "Thank you for that. So I'm asking you directly, what really happened?" I took a deep breath. "Your daughter has been having an affair for 4 months. She's been lying about it, covering it up, and planning to leave me for a man who makes a career out of breaking up marriages. When I found out, I decided to make sure everyone involved had access to the same information." Margaret was quiet for a long time. "How did you find out?" "Credit card statements, hotel records, the usual paper trail that cheaters always leave behind." "And this man, Elliot, has done this before, multiple times. Rina is just his latest target." "Does she know that?" "She does now." Another long silence. "Miles, I owe you an apology." "No, you don't." "Yes, I do. When Rina told us about the divorce, I assumed you'd grown apart. That happens sometimes. But this is different. This is betrayal." "Yes, it is." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to make sure she understands that actions have consequences. And I'm going to make sure Elliot understands exactly what kind of woman he's involved with. And then I'm going to move on with my life." Margaret started crying then, soft sobs that made my chest tight. "I'm so sorry, Miles. I'm so sorry she did this to you, to your marriage, to our family." "It's not your fault, Margaret. She's my daughter. I raised her to be better than this. You raised her to be strong and independent. Sometimes strong, independent people make terrible choices. Will you keep in touch? After everything is settled?" "If you want me to." "I do. You've been like a son to us, Miles. That doesn't change just because Rina has lost her mind." After she hung up, I sat in my office for a long time, staring at the phone. Outside, the afternoon was turning gray, threatening rain. Inside, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. My computer chimed with an email from Sam. Subject line: Phase 3 complete. I opened it to find a single photo: Elliot Drake's Porsche in the parking lot of his office building, covered in what appeared to be every piece of evidence from Rina's affair. Credit card statements taped to the windshield, hotel receipts stuck under the wipers, and written across the rear window in washable paint: "Ask me about my girlfriend's husband." I called Sam immediately. Please tell me you didn't do anything illegal. Define illegal. Sam. Relax. Everything was taped or stuck on with removable adhesive. No permanent damage. Just a very public display of very private information. And no one saw you? I'm a professional, Miles. I know how to be invisible. Good. What about security cameras? What about them? All they'll show is someone putting papers on a car. Last I checked, that wasn't a crime. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to meet. Tonight. Elliot. I showed it to Sam over the phone. You going to meet him? Oh, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Want backup? No. This is something I need to handle myself. Elliot had suggested a bar downtown, the kind of place where businessmen went to drink expensive whiskey and make deals that would never see the light of day. I arrived early, claiming a corner booth with a clear view of the entrance. He walked in 20 minutes later, looking like he'd aged 5 years in the past 3 days. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit was wrinkled, and there were dark circles under his eyes that suggested he hadn't been sleeping well. He spotted me immediately and walked over, sliding into the booth across from me without being invited. You look like shit, I said. Thanks to you. Thanks to your poor choice in women, I just provided some context. The waitress came over, and Elliot ordered scotch. Top shelf. He looked like he needed it. You've made your point, he said when she left. Have I? What point is that? That Rina lied to me, that she's still married, that she used your money to fund our relationship. Those aren't points, Elliot. Those are facts. The point is something else entirely. Which is? That you're a predator who targets vulnerable women, and this time you picked the wrong woman to target. His jaw tightened. I'm not a predator. No? What do you call a man who specifically seeks out married women, convinces them to leave their husbands, and then moves on to the next target? I call it dating. You call it a business model, and it's worked pretty well for you, hasn't it? Until now. The waitress brought his drink. He downed half of it in one gulp. What do you want? I want you to understand something. Rina isn't some innocent victim of a bad marriage. She's a user, a manipulator, a woman who will say anything and do anything to get what she wants. And what does she want? Right now? You, your money, your status, your penthouse lifestyle. But that'll get old, just like I got old. And when it does, she'll start looking for her next upgrade. You're wrong. Am I? How much have you spent on her, Elliot? Ballpark figure. He didn't answer. I'll tell you how much. $43,000. Hotels, dinners, jewelry, clothes, trips. $43,000 in 4 months. That's more than most people make in a year. How could you possibly know that? Because I've seen your credit card statements. Your ex-wife was very helpful in providing them. His face went pale. Jennifer would and did. Turns out she's still pretty angry about what you did to her. And when I explained that you were doing it again, she was more than happy to share details about your spending habits. You had no right. I had every right. You're sleeping with my wife. That makes your business my business. He finished his drink and signaled for another. She loves me. She loves what you can give her. There's a difference. You don't know her like I do. I know her better than you ever will. I've been married to her for 6 years. I've seen her lie to her parents, her friends, her co-workers. I've watched her manipulate situations to get what she wants, and now I'm watching her manipulate you. She's leaving you. Is she? Because according to my lawyer, she can't file for divorce for another 10 months. Massachusetts law requires a year of separation before you can file, which means she's going to be my wife for a very long time. Elliot's second drink arrived. He stared at it like it might contain answers. She told me you'd agreed to an amicable divorce. She told you a lot of things. How many of them have turned out to be true? Enough. Name one. Silence. Here's what's going to happen, Elliot. You're going to go home tonight and think about everything I've told you. You're going to add up how much money you've spent on a woman who's still married to someone else. You're going to think about your ex-wife, and Sarah Chen, and Lisa Rodriguez, and all the other women you've used and discarded. And then you're going to make a choice. What kind of choice? Whether you want to be the user or the used. I stood up, dropping a 20 on the table. Enjoy your drink. And Elliot? What? When you dump her, and you will dump her, try to let her down easy. She's going to have a very long fall from here. I left him sitting there, staring into his whiskey like it might tell him how his life had gotten so complicated so fast. Outside, it had started to rain. I walked back to my car, feeling lighter than I had in months. My phone buzzed with a text from Rina. We need to talk. For the first time in days, I texted back, no, we don't. Because we really didn't. Everything that needed to be said had been said. Everything that needed to be done was almost finished. All that was left was the ending. Friday morning brought an unexpected visitor to my office. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my secretary buzzed me. Mr. Turner, there's a woman here to see you. Says her name is Jennifer Morrison. Elliot's ex-wife. This should be interesting. Send her in. Jennifer Morrison was nothing like I'd expected. She was tall, elegant, probably in her early 40s, with the kind of understated confidence that came from surviving a very public divorce and coming out stronger on the other side. Mr. Turner, thank you for seeing me without an appointment. Please call me Miles, and thank you for all your help this week. She smiled, settling into the chair across from my desk. It was my pleasure. Elliot needed to be reminded that actions have consequences. How are you holding up? I know this week has been eventful. Actually, it's been quite therapeutic. I've been waiting 3 years for someone to give Elliot a taste of his own medicine. Happy to oblige. I wanted to talk to you about your wife. Ex-wife. Soon to be ex-wife anyway. Have you spoken to her recently? Not since Monday. Why? Jennifer opened her purse and pulled out a manila folder. Because I think you should see this. She slid the folder across my desk. Inside were photos, printouts, and what appeared to be a private investigator's report. What am I looking at? Elliot's next target. I flipped through the pages. Photos of Elliot at restaurants, hotels, business meetings. But he wasn't with Rina. He was with a blonde woman I'd never seen before. Who is she? Rebecca Walsh. Married, 2 kids, husband's a doctor. Elliot met her last week at a real estate conference. I looked up at Jennifer. Last week? Tuesday, to be exact. The day after you sent him those credit card statements. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. He's already moved on. Elliot doesn't like complications, and your wife became very complicated very quickly. I flipped through more photos. Elliot and Rebecca having dinner. Elliot and Rebecca in what appeared to be a hotel lobby. Elliot and Rebecca looking very much like a couple. Does Rina know? Not yet, but she will soon enough. How soon? Jennifer smiled. Well, that depends on you. What do you mean? I mean you have a choice. You can let her find out on her own, which could take weeks or months. Or you can make sure she finds out today. She reached into her purse again and pulled out a small envelope. What's that? An invitation to Elliot's company party tonight. Very exclusive, very high-end. All of Boston's real estate elite will be there. Including Rebecca Walsh? Including Rebecca Walsh as Elliot's date. I stared at the invitation. Why are you giving me this? Because your wife deserves to see exactly what kind of man she threw away her marriage for, and because Elliot deserves to have his latest victim meet his previous one. You want me to bring Rina to this party. I want you to give Rina the chance to see the truth. What she does with that chance is up to her. I leaned back in my chair. This feels like way too much. Does it? Your wife destroyed your marriage for a man who's already replaced her. She lied to you, used your money, and humiliated you in front of your friends and family, and you think making sure she knows the truth is too much? She had a point. What's your angle in all this, Jennifer? My angle is that Elliot Drake has been ruining marriages for years, and it's time someone held him accountable. Your wife was just collateral damage. And Rebecca Walsh deserves to know what she's getting into before she makes the same mistakes your wife did. I looked at the invitation again. The party was tonight, 7 o'clock, at one of Boston's most exclusive hotels. How do I get Rina there? Leave that to me. 3 hours later, my phone rang. Rina's number. Miles? I just got a call from Elliot's assistant. There's some kind of emergency with the divorce paperwork, and Elliot wants to meet tonight to discuss it. Emergency? What kind of emergency? I don't know. Something about property division and asset protection. Elliot wants to make sure everything is handled properly. Where are you supposed to meet him? The Fairmont Hotel. There's some kind of business event, and he said we could talk privately afterward. Sounds important. It is. Miles, this could affect everything. The divorce, the settlement, our future. Then you should definitely go. You're not going to try to stop me? Why would I stop you? You're a grown woman. You can make your own choices. There was a pause. You're being very understanding about this. I'm being realistic. We both know this marriage is over. If Elliot can help you move on with your life, then that's what you should do. Thank you for being mature about this. Don't mention it. After she hung up, I called Jennifer. It's done. She'll be there. Excellent. And Miles? Yeah? You might want to dress up for this. It's going to be quite a show. The Fairmont Hotel was exactly the kind of place Elliot would choose for his company party. All marble and crystal and old-world elegance, the kind of setting that made everyone feel like they were part of something important. I arrived at 7:30, fashionably late, wearing my best suit and a smile that probably looked more predatory than friendly. The invitation Jennifer had given me got me past the door and into a ballroom filled with Boston's real estate elite. I spotted Elliot immediately. He was holding court near the bar, surrounded by a group of investors and developers, looking every inch the successful businessman, and standing next to him, her hand on his arm, was a blonde woman who had to be Rebecca Walsh. She was beautiful in a wholesome, suburban way, the kind of woman who probably drove a minivan and coached her kids' soccer teams, the kind of woman who would never suspect that her new boyfriend made a career out of destroying marriages. I grabbed a drink and found a spot near the back of the room where I could watch the entrance. Rina would be here soon, expecting to meet Elliot for a private conversation about their future. Instead, she was going to get a very public education about the kind of man she'd chosen. She arrived at 8 o'clock sharp, looking stunning in a red dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. She paused in the doorway, scanning the crowd for Elliot, her face bright with anticipation. It took her about 30 seconds to spot him, and another 10 seconds to realize he wasn't alone. I watched her face change as she processed what she was seeing. Confusion first, then disbelief, then a dawning understanding that made her go pale under her expensive makeup. Elliot hadn't seen her yet. He was too busy introducing Rebecca to his colleagues, playing the role of the devoted boyfriend, with an enthusiasm that would have been impressive if it weren't so nauseating. Rina stood frozen in the doorway for a long moment, then started walking toward them. Her stride was purposeful, her jaw set, her hands clenched into fists. This was going to be good. She was about 10 feet away when Elliot finally noticed her. His face went through the same progression of emotions hers had, ending in a look of pure panic. "Rina," he said, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet ballroom. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same question," she said, her voice loud enough for half the room to hear, "though I think I'm starting to figure it out." Rebecca looked confused, glancing between Elliot and Rina like she was watching a tennis match. "Elliot, who is this?" she asked. "Nobody," Elliot said quickly. "Just a client." A client. Rina's voice went up an octave. A client? The entire ballroom had gone quiet now, everyone pretending to continue their conversations while straining to hear every word. Rina, please, Elliot said. Not here. No, I think here is perfect. She turned to Rebecca. Hi, I'm Rina Turner, Elliot's fiancée, though apparently that's news to him. Rebecca's face went white. Fiancé? Well, technically, I'm still married to someone else, but Elliot assured me that was just a formality. We've been planning our wedding for months. Elliot? Rebecca said, her voice barely above a whisper. Is this true? Elliot looked like a man caught between two firing squads. It's complicated. Complicated? Rina laughed, but there was no humor in it. What's complicated about it? You gave me a ring. You told me you loved me. You said we were going to be together. We are going to be together, but right now isn't the time to discuss this. When is the time, Elliot? When you're done sleeping with her? The word echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot. Several people gasped. Someone's drink glass hit the floor and shattered. Rebecca stepped away from Elliot like he'd suddenly caught fire. I think I should go. No, Rina said, grabbing her arm. You should stay. You should hear all about the man you're dating. Did he tell you about the hotel suites, the expensive dinners, the jewelry? Did he tell you he specializes in married women? Let go of me, Rebecca said, pulling free. Did he tell you about Jennifer Morrison, or Sarah Chen, or Lisa Rodriguez? You're not his first married conquest, honey. You're just the latest. Rebecca turned to Elliot, her face a mixture of disgust and betrayal. Is any of this true? Elliot opened his mouth to answer, but before he could speak, another voice cut through the silence. All of it. Everyone turned to see Jennifer Morrison walking across the ballroom, elegant and composed, carrying herself like a queen entering her court. Jennifer, Elliot said, his voice barely a whisper. Hello, Elliot. Rebecca. She nodded at the blonde woman. I'm Jennifer Morrison, Elliot's ex-wife. And yes, everything she said is true. Rebecca looked like she might faint. Ex-wife? Divorced 3 years ago when I caught him cheating with a married client. Sound familiar? The ballroom was silent now. Even the waiters had stopped moving. Rebecca, Jennifer continued, I don't know you, but I'm going to give you some advice. Run. Run as fast as you can, and don't look back. Elliot Drake destroys marriages for sport, and you're about to become his next victim. Rebecca didn't need to be told twice. She turned and walked out of the ballroom, her heels clicking on the marble floor like a countdown timer. Elliot watched her go, then turned back to Rina and Jennifer. You snakes destroyed my life. No, said a voice from behind him. You did that all by yourself. Elliot spun around to find me standing there, drink in hand, smile on my face. Miles, Rina said, her voice barely a whisper. Hello, sweetheart. Enjoying the party? What are you doing here? Same thing you are, getting an education. I walked over to Elliot, stopping close enough that only he could hear what I said next. Remember what I told you about being the user or the used? Congratulations, you just got used. Elliot's face was purple with rage. You set this up. I didn't set up anything. I just made sure everyone had access to the same information. What they did with that information was up to them. I turned to Rina. How are you feeling, honey? Still think Elliot's your Prince Charming? She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streaks. You bastard! You planned all of this. I planned nothing. Elliot planned to cheat on you with Rebecca. Jennifer planned to expose Elliot's pattern of behavior. You planned to leave your husband for a man who makes a career out of destroying marriages. I just coordinated the timing. You destroyed my life. No, sweetheart, you destroyed your life. I just made sure everyone got to watch. Elliot stepped forward, his fists clenched. You think you're so smart. I think I'm smarter than a man who brings his side piece to the same party as his fiancée, but that's a pretty low bar. Security was moving toward us now, drawn by the commotion. Time to make an exit. Well, this has been fun, I said, finishing my drink. But I should probably go. I have a life to rebuild. I started to walk away, then paused and turned back. Oh, and Rina, you might want to find somewhere else to stay tonight. I changed the locks on the apartment this afternoon. Your stuff is at your parents' house. I left them standing there in the wreckage of their relationship, surrounded by a ballroom full of witnesses who would be talking about this night for years to come. Outside, it was raining again. I stood under the hotel's awning for a moment, breathing in the cool air and feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Free. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. How did it go? I typed back. Better than expected. Elliot's single, Rina's homeless, and I'm officially done being married to a cheating whore. Drinks to celebrate? Absolutely, but somewhere far from here. I've had enough drama for one night. I walked to my car, got in, and drove away from the Fairmont Hotel, from Elliot Drake, from Rina Turner, and from the biggest mistake of my life. Behind me, the lights of the hotel grew smaller in my rearview mirror until they disappeared entirely. And for the first time in months, I smiled.